Catherine and I reporting, we did obviously ask the Home Office for an interview. They said no. They gave us this statement instead. Decisions to detain individuals are reviewed regularly to ensure they remain justified and reasonable, and if necessary, they can be challenged through the courts. We're committed to treating all detainees with dignity and respect and take the welfare of detainees very seriously. Well, let's talk about this now with Chai Patel from the Joint Council for the Welfare of Immigrants, who works with those who end up in detention centres, and Gerard Batten, the UKIP MEP for London and a former UKIP spokesman on immigration. Welcome both of you. Thank you very much. Gerard Batten, what should Britain do then with a man who can't be returned to Iran because Iran won't have him and he has no passport?
Well, you're talking about particular cases here where there might be some severe difficulty in dealing with it, but I think we have a broken and dysfunctional immigration and asylum system. The last time I saw some figures, there were at least a couple of 100,000 cases backed up and waiting to be dealt with. If we could deal with the more everyday cases more speedily and actually deport people much quicker, then we'd have more time to spend on the more difficult cases.
So employ more officials, effectively, to go through the cases?
We have open borders, basically. Anyone can come here and turn up. We're not deporting people speedily who have no legal right to be here. So we need to actually slimline the system. We need to bring out some new legislation that allows us to deport obvious abuses cases very quickly, abusing our system, I mean, more quickly, so then we can actually concentrate on the more difficult cases. But we don't control it. I mean, we have no border controls with the EU, but the rest of the world doesn't seem to have much trouble getting in either, from the figures.
Well, everybody has to show a passport when they get to Britain.
They do, but we have not just uncontrolled immigration from the EU.
But this is actually not about immigration. Well, this is not immigration. This is about asylum seekers.
They're not all asylum seekers, I think, are they? They're illegal migrants. They're people who are trying to get in illegally and are then detained.
The people that we're talking about today who've received compensation, they're asylum seekers who've had their application for asylum refused, so they're waiting to be deported, or foreign prisoners, so people who've been in jail here, and again, Britain is waiting to deport them.
I can't see why it's so difficult to deport these people. Are other countries refusing to have them back? In which case, we should apply some diplomatic muscle and start applying some sanctions to those countries, so we hit them where it hurts.
Well,
so they'd be forced to do
Iran
it.
is the example with Hamid. I mean,
well, that's a particularly bad example, isn't it, of a country in the world. But there are other countries that are more stable, where I'm sure we could apply more pressure on them to take their people back.
But if they're detained illegally, do you agree with the principle that they should be paid compensation?
No. And if they are paid compensation and then sent back to their own country, why not pay them at the average...
Go back a step. You don't agree that they should be paid compensation. If they're detained illegally, what rights do they have?
Well, these are legal technicalities. If they are in the country illegally...
I don't think 3 years in a detention centre is an illegal technicality.
If they are here illegally, then they do not have a legal right to be here. Therefore, it's quite reasonable to detain them for a period of time. And depending on how difficult their case is, that time is... I don't agree we should be detaining people for 3 years, but that's because the system doesn't work properly. They have no right to be here. They shouldn't be funded by the taxpayer for that. And to the tune of tens of thousands of pounds.
Chai Patel, how do you fix this system? What's the answer?
Well, I mean, first of all, I think it's important to note that people who claim asylum, everyone has a right to claim asylum. If they're not granted asylum, then they can be removed, but that doesn't mean that they're here illegally. It means that they came here and claimed a legal right that they have to claim asylum. It was decided that they're not refugees, or that we're not going to grant them asylum, and then they can be removed. And the important thing is that when you detain someone, the Home Office is only meant to do that when they're about to be removed, or for the purposes of removing them, and it's meant to be used very sparingly. And what we're seeing in the current detention system is that the Home Office is massively overusing that power and detaining a lot of people who shouldn't be detained.
Why do you think they're doing that?
It's not really clear. I think there's a combination of errors that are made. I think there's a huge amount of pressure to be seen to be doing things about people. Home Office caseworkers and the people who make the decisions to detain aren't often very clear on what their actual obligations are and what the rules are. They don't really look at cases properly. They often don't consider evidence that would be relevant. And a lot of mistakes are made in putting people into detention, and often it's done for administrative convenience rather than for actual legal reasons.
Yeah, I mean, people watching across about the amounts in compensation being paid. Janet on Facebook says £33,000 to this man. What a dreadful waste of money for nothing. This country's getting worse at giving our money away. Some people work for years to earn that. Email from Chris: are we supposed to feel sorry for the man in your report? By his own admission, he is an army deserter. British Army deserters are locked up, so he should not expect anything less. Even his own country doesn't want him, and who can blame them? I mean, does it need more officials? Does it need more in the admin? Is it about locking fewer people up? And if so, then what if they, what if they disappear?
Well, I think the commonly agreed solution amongst most people who aren't the government is that we should be locking far fewer people up. We use detention far more than most countries. We have a very different detention system to most countries. We are an outlier. As you saw on the video, we're one of the few countries without a time limit for detention. And a recent cross-parliamentary inquiry into the use of detention in the UK came up with a number of recommendations on how to do this better. One of them is to have a 28-day time limit for detention, and the other is to engage with detainees more. I mean, a lot of studies have shown, and the way that other countries work, who have much better rates of removal, actually, and if you do want to speed up the process and you want to make it work better, you have to make it a fairer process, because people are far more likely to engage if they feel that they're being treated fairly.
Okay. Thank you both very much. Thank you. Thanks for coming on the programme.
Big Man Tyrone here. Make sure to subscribe to the wicked awesome Robin Hood UKIP YouTube website. He exposes the leftist crops on the British Brainwashing Corporation. Nice.